We are intertwined with seasons. We are gifted a moment to be born and a moment to die. For some, it is the departure of a grandparent's wisdom, a mother's warmth, a father's guidance. For others, it is a backbone of a sibling, the laughter of a friend, or the touch of a lover. Each bears witness to the excruciating sting of death. Regardless of who or when, the certainty remains that we all will encounter the sharp embrace of death at some point. In our time, we often focus on life's genesis, marked by celebrations disclosing a newborn's gender. Another follows for gifts we know the parents will need, further commemorating the infant's inaugural 12 months and the passing of each subsequent year. Conversations weave tales of our birth, narratives sculpted from fragments passed down by varied sources. Yet, seldom do we approach the topic of death until its cold touch has already claimed someone dear to us. Inescapably, this will happen to all of us. Therefore, discussing this inevitable fate becomes something one just must do, a toast to death. Common knowledge designates death as the ultimate cessation, the termination of life's essential functions. The heart halts its rhythmic dance, the breath constricts, and the symphony of brain activity falls into oblivion. The body, succumbing to the grasp of life, undergoes a subtle metamorphosis. The heartbeat falters, radiance fades from the skin like the waning summer sun, replaced by the wintry hues of pale gray-blue, most prominently evident on the hands, knees, and legs. Breathing assumes an erratic rhythm, sometimes slow, at other times fast, sometimes intermittently faint or resoundingly loud. A sequence of breaths interspersed with prolonged silences, a gasp defying the presumption of departure. Yet, proximity to the precipice is unmistakable. In a few hours, a final extended pause looms, devoid of a gasp to pierce the ensuing silence. In the twilight of exiting the living life, a sense of readiness often envelops those on the cusp of transition. It's a sensation akin to cradling within the arms of Mother Nature, reminiscent of an infant nestled in the womb of their mother. Comfort, fulfillment, and tranquility permeate the atmosphere. Many grasp an acute understanding of what awaits, occasionally prolonging their departure for the momentous farewell. Perhaps it's an anticipated reunion with a mother, an expression of gratitude for all their sacrifices in childhood. Maybe it's a call to a friend, absolving them of past transgressions. Or it could be a yearning to embrace one's children once more. As death comes to visit, we often already know of its journey to us. We brace ourselves, fortify our abodes, and, as we step outside, we cast a final glance, closing the door behind us and tossing the key. Embarking on this inexorable journey, confusion awakens us. Consciousness comes back to us one final time. The softness of it grazes you one last time, and finally, let's go. The curtains drawn on what was a life once lived. Death claims its moment. Up to this point, comprehension accompanies each event, but what unfolds thereafter still remains a mystery to the waking souls. Death is usually seen as something that can't be changed, but there are some interesting exceptions worth taking note of. People who were declared dead by doctors have some incredible stories to tell after coming back to life. These near-death experiences, even though they might sound unbelievable, make us rethink the idea that death means the end of all stories. No matter how smart we think we are not completely sure about everything, so there's always a mystery surrounding what happens after death. There is an abundant repository of near-death encounters. Resuscitated individuals, once medically pronounced dead for hours or even days, resurrect with narratives encompassing out-of-body experiences and vivid afterlife memories. The specifics disclosed defy modern rationality. What all of these testimonies agree upon is that indeed, life flashes before your eyes. As the heart flutters on the brink of silence, a panorama of your life unfolds. Yet contrary to what you would expect, it's not the monumental events that will appear. Not your graduation from university, not your wedding night, not the first time holding your newborn child. Instead, seemingly inconsequential fragments materialize, like childhood bike rides, brushing your teeth, the taste of your favorite cereal, or details like the pattern of your grandmother's wallpaper. If you're thinking, the pattern of your grandmother's wallpaper is strangely specific, that's because it is. A construction worker survived a fall from a significant height after a safety harness malfunction. While plummeting, he experienced a rapid succession of memories, including mundane details like the pattern of his grandmother's wallpaper and the taste of his favorite childhood cereal. This provokes contemplation. Do dormant memories resurface in death? Does departure unveil forgotten fragments, hinting at temporariness rather than permanence? Lots of people are scared of dying because it seems lonely. When you're born, it's just you. But what about when you're about to die? People who have had near-death experiences talk about seeing a family member who's already passed away, sort of like a guide, either showing them the way to the afterlife or saying, "Hey, it's not your time yet." So, maybe death isn't as lonesome as we imagine, whether it's just their mind creating a comforting image during their final moments, or if it's genuinely the spirit or soul of their deceased family members, we can't say for certain. What we can be sure of, though, is that for many people, death doesn't feel lonely, or at least it doesn't seem that way. When it comes to the concept of the soul, science hasn't quite nailed down an explanation yet. Despite countless near-death experience testimonies describing out-of-body moments, it could be a sign that we need to reconsider whether science can truly explain everything. This is a story of a woman who died on her hospital bed and crossed over to the afterlife. She recalled feeling like she was floating above her own body, seeing everything around her in a 360-degree panoramic view. Her body lying on the hospital bed, doctors around her trying to resuscitate her. She was able to see not just the room where her body was, but even beyond that. Such accounts prompt introspection. Are we, as sentient beings, mere amalgams of molecular responses to Mother Nature's stimuli? Alternatively, do we harbor an intangible essence beyond atoms and molecules, transcending the boundaries of comprehension? These are the stories of people who've somehow come back from the brink of dying. They've got stories to tell and scars to prove it. But for most people, death is final. And about 1 to 2 weeks after someone dies, it's time for us to say our last goodbyes. A lot of what we know about the past comes from how people have taken care of those who have died. Whether it's tombs or mummies, the things left behind by the dead tell us a story about history. The very first intentional burial we know about happened around 100,000 years ago in Israel, where the remains of up to 15 burials were discovered during excavations in the 1930s and 1960s. They carefully put the bodies in a box with clothes, toys, and even food, and then placed the boxes in a cave. In that cave, there were signs that the living people painted the dead bodies, threw big parties, and had feasts to honor those who passed away. They also buried families together. So, even way back then, people understood that death was important, and they celebrated lives that were well lived. Nowadays, different cultures have their own ways of doing funerals. Most of the time, people gather to remember the good things about the person who passed away. In many religions, they say prayers to wish the person well in the afterlife. But what happens after we die depends on what you believe. Some religions, like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, think your actions in life decide what happens to you after death. They believe families will be together again after everyone crosses to the other side. Other religions, like Hinduism, believe in reincarnation, which means being born again after death. After all the ceremonies and prayers, the bodies are either cremated or buried, and the people who gathered to say goodbye go their separate ways to start healing from the sadness of losing someone. It's not the same as just thinking about it. It's way more painful when it actually happens. The idea that everything you once did with that person is gone forever is really scary, and the pain can be excruciating. Death is scary because it's final. One day you wake up and everything you shared with someone, all the fun, the memories, the experiences, is just gone. All you're left with are memories, and you can't make new ones with that person. But, going through these tough times can change how you see life. It makes you realize how short life is and gives you the courage to do all the cool stuff you can while you're here. It also teaches us to be good to others because one day people will talk about us when we're not around anymore. And when we've been through tough times ourselves, we're better at helping others who are going through the same thing. When someone close to you is about to die, it's not as hard for them as it is for you. Spending time with them, talking about the good stuff, holding their hand, those things can make the last moments special. Talk about their life, the people they love, and the things that made it awesome. Even though things feel tough, remember that life goes on. The world keeps turning, the birds keep singing, but everything has an end at some point. The Earth's relentless spin persists, the avian melody endures, yet ultimately all ventures culminate. Thank you all for tuning in. Peace, love, and prosperity to all beings of planet Earth.